I sat on the edge of our king-size bed, heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst through my chest. Yesterday afternoon, Jennifer's voicemail came through on my phone just as I was about to leave for a meeting. I had deleted so many messages from her over the years, all brimming with accusations and demands. But this one was different. Her voice sounded strange, slower, softer, almost vulnerable. I pressed play, expecting the familiar glare of her anger, but instead I heard hesitation, regret, and two simple words that changed everything: "I'm sorry." My husband, Matt, had been saying for weeks that he'd turned over a new leaf. He swore he would be the partner I deserved after all the late nights I spent alone, after all the promises he broke. I wanted to believe him. I clung to hope the way a survivor clings to a life raft in a storm. We had a 15-year marriage filled with moments of joy and tenderness, but also pain and disappointment. He cheated twice, once with a coworker during a business trip to Chicago, and again with someone I never met at a party. The betrayal cut deeper the second time because I had already forgiven him once and believed we were stronger. He said he'd changed. He joined a support group, started therapy, and even apologized to my parents when he realized how badly he had hurt me. But an apology is just a word, and I needed proof. Proof that he had truly become a different man, not just a man. Running from his mistakes, I walked into my office. The air conditioning blew a cold breeze across my arms. The tall windows let in a hazy afternoon light, dust particles dancing like tiny gold specks. I set my laptop on the desk and took a deep breath. Jennifer's name flashed on the screen again. Our daughter, our only child, who had taken her mother's side without question. I pressed Emily, my assistant, on speaker. She answered after 2 rings, her cheerful tone a stark contrast to the tension knotting my stomach. Before we start the agenda, I need your opinion on something personal. I got a voicemail from Jennifer yesterday. She sounded different. She hesitated. A pause so long I almost hung up. Then she whispered, "Play it." I slipped the earbuds into my ears, closed my eyes, and pressed play. Her voice began, shaky and uncertain. "Emily, I know you've been loyal to Matt, and maybe you think I'm just another ex-wife stirring trouble. But hear me out. Something changed in him last night, something dangerous. He told me he's reinventing himself, turning over a new leaf. He said he's a changed man. But I heard something else." That last line sent a shiver down my spine. My chest tightened as I imagined what she meant. Was Matt lying again, masking some hidden agenda? I glanced at the glossy photo on my desk, a picture of Matt and me on our 10th anniversary cruise, smiling under the Caribbean sun. Back then, our love had felt unbreakable. Now it felt fragile, cracking at the edges. I waited for more from the voicemail, but it ended abruptly. No further explanation, no instructions. Just her voice trailing off. I tapped the screen to replay, but Emily cleared her throat. She said, "Should I set up a meeting with HR? He did miss that important deadline last week. Maybe he's unstable." I bit back a laugh. HR wasn't going to help with a cheating spouse. I shook my head. "No, Emily, not yet. Keep this between us for now. Let me think." She nodded, and her click confirmed the line went dead. Alone again, I rubbed my temples, trying to soothe the tension. I leaned back, chair creaking beneath me, and stared at the voicemail transcript that Johnson had printed for me. It read in bold letters, "He said he's a changed man." Underneath, a few scribbles in Jennifer's handwriting, "It's a lie. He's planning something." My heartbeat thundered as I replayed that phrase. Planning something. My mind shot to possibilities I refused to accept. Was Matt going to leave me for good? Was he plotting financial ruination? Trying to gain custody of Jennifer? Or was this all a twisted mind game? I rubbed my eyes, wondering who this man was. He wore my wedding ring, called me a love, but who was he really? I stood up and moved toward the window, glancing out at the city below. The late spring warmth made the pavement shimmer, kids played in the fountain outside the park, and pedestrians bustled along the sidewalks. Life carried on, oblivious to my turmoil. I hugged my arms around myself and whispered, "What are you hiding, Matt?" My phone buzzed, jolting me out of the moment. It was Matt. Video call. My pulse spiked. I stared at his face and forced a calm smile. "Hey," I said, voice steady. He smiled back, but his eyes flickered with something I couldn't place. "Hey," he mirrored. "Ready for date night?" I hesitated, heart thudding. Date night. The phrase tasted hollow. I swallowed. Sure. As he winked at me through the screen, I realized I was already playing a dangerous game. A game of secrets, half-truths, and unspoken fears. And it was only just beginning. Tomorrow, everything would change, I knew definitely. I woke at dawn to the steady hum of the coffee maker, the steam curling up like a fragile promise of clarity. My head throbbed from yesterday's revelations, and I pressed my fingertips to my temples, recalling Jennifer's warning about Matt. Planning something dangerous. I forced myself out of bed, wrapping my robe around my 35-year-old frame, and padded barefoot into the kitchen. The sunlight slanted through the blinds, slicing lines of gold across the tile floor. I filled the carafe with water, hit brew, and watched the dark liquid collect. Each drip echoed in the quiet house, as if counting down to an inevitable confrontation. Today, I decided, I would find out exactly what Matt was hiding. I poured a cup, inhaling the bitter aroma, and carried it to the living room. Our daughter's toys were scattered across the rug, reminders of the life we'd built together. But now, everything felt precarious. I sank onto the leather sofa, cradling the mug, and dialed Jennifer's number. My heart raced as it rang twice. Before she answered, her voice soft but tense. "You called," she said. "I didn't sleep," I admitted. "Tell me what you heard last night." There was a pause, then she exhaled sharply. He wasn't talking about changing for the better. He was talking about making changes, legal changes, financial changes. He's updating his will, altering joint accounts, preparing to cut you out. A cold knot coiled in my stomach. I thanked her and hung up, my mind spinning. Legal changes? Financial changes? Cutting me out? Everything I thought I knew about our marriage felt like a lie. I closed my eyes, imagining rows of bank statements and legal documents, signatures in my own handwriting, suddenly worthless. I took a sip of coffee, letting the warmth seep into my chest, and decided I couldn't wait another moment. I needed proof. I grabbed my phone and called my attorney, a woman named Carla who had helped me when Matt's first affair exploded into custody threats. Carla answered after a couple of rings, her voice brisk and professional. I told her I suspected Matt was moving money without my consent, updating his will behind my back. She told me to come by her office immediately and bring any documents. I had access to it. I glanced at the clock, 7:15 a.m., and realized I had less than an hour before the school bus arrived. I poured the rest of my coffee into a travel mug, threw on a blazer over my pajama pants, and gathered my purse. In the garage. I grabbed the file box where we kept joint financial statements, insurance papers, deeds, and our most recent tax returns. My hands shook as I loaded it into the trunk. I climbed into my car and pulled out of the driveway, feeling the rubber tires bite into the pavement, carrying me toward answers and maybe more betrayal. The ride to Carla's office took 20 minutes. Through quiet suburban streets. My thoughts raced. Would I find forged signatures? Empty accounts? A will naming someone else as beneficiary? I kept glancing at the file box in the passenger seat, its weight a physical anchor to my anxiety. When I arrived, Carla ushered me into her book-lined office and offered me water. I handed her the file box, closed my eyes, and let out a breath. I didn't know I'd been holding. She began examining the documents, flipping through pages with careful precision. After a few minutes, she frowned and pushed a stack of papers toward me. "Here," she said. "These are recent amendments to your living trust." He's added a new beneficiary, someone named Rebecca Turner. He's also transferred a significant sum from your joint account into an account solely in his name. I stared at the sheets, the ink swimming before my eyes. Rebecca Turner. Who was she? A coworker? Another affair? My stomach churned. Can you tell when these were signed? I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. Carla tapped a date, 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. That was when he'd been telling me he was turning over a new leaf, joining therapy, becoming a better man. I felt rage and betrayal crash through me, hot and bright. But beneath that, an icy fear. What other schemes had he set in motion? What trap was I walking into? Carla looked up, her expression sympathetic but firm. You have options, she said. We can file an injunction to freeze the accounts. We can challenge the trust amendments as fraudulent if your signature was forged or obtained under false pretenses. And we can request a temporary restraining order to prevent him from disposing of assets. She slid her chair closer. But you'll need to act quickly. He's moving fast, and if we wait, it might be too late. I nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. Do it, I said. Do whatever it takes. My voice sounded hollow to my own ears. Carla began typing on her laptop, drawing up documents and outlining next steps. I sat back, the weight of the morning settling on my shoulders. Outside the window, trees swayed in a gentle spring breeze, birds chirped as if nothing were wrong. But inside, time felt suspended, every second pregnant with the threat of loss, of money, of security, of the life I thought I had. After half an hour, Carla printed the paperwork and handed it to me. You should serve these papers today, she advised. If he knows you're onto him, he might accelerate his plan. I thanked her, feeling both empowered and terrified. I gathered the documents, each sheet a testament to betrayal, and slid them into a folder. I left Carla's office and drove to the school, where Jennifer stood waiting, backpack slung over her shoulders. She looked at me with concern, her eyes inquiring. I knelt, took her hand, and said, everything's going to be okay. I promise. She nodded, but I could see the worry etched on her face. As I watched her board the bus, I realized the next steps would define the rest of my life. I'd entered this morning seeking answers, now I had choices. I could confront Matt directly, demand explanations, try to salvage what remained of our marriage. Or I could cut my losses, fight him in court, and reclaim my life piece by piece. The coffee's bitter aftertaste still lingered, reminding me that hope and betrayal can coexist in the same cup. I stood on the sidewalk, folder clutched to my chest, and whispered to the empty street, I'm not who I was yesterday. And today, I'm fighting back. I parked in the driveway with the legal documents folded in my lap, my hands trembling so badly I feared I'd drop them. The late afternoon sun slanted across the manicured lawn, mocking me with its ordinary beauty. I forced myself out of the car and gripped the folder, its edges crisp and purposeful. Each step toward the front door felt like walking through water, heavy, resistant, unavoidable. I rang the bell and exhaled, hoping my voice wouldn't crack when Matt answered. He opened the door before I finished setting my weight on the mat. His hair was slightly mussed, and he wore the same blue shirt he'd promised was clean for our video call. His smile faltered when he saw the folder in my hand. Hey, he said, too casually. I stepped inside, closing the door with determination. We need to talk, I said, voice steady despite the adrenaline. He followed me into the living room, eyes narrowing when he spotted the papers spread across the coffee table. I laid the documents out, the amended trust, the transferred funds statements, the injunction notice. Matt's jaw tightened as he read. What is this? He asked, though he already knew. I met his gaze and felt a cold calm settle over me. This is you finally telling the truth, I replied. You added Rebecca Turner as beneficiary, moved money into your personal account. All behind my back. His eyes darted away, guilt and panic mingling there. I can explain, he stammered. I held up a hand. Save it. I called Carla on speakerphone, and soon our attorney's voice filled the room with quiet authority. Carla explained that unless Matt reversed the transactions and rescinded the amendments immediately, the court would freeze all assets and consider his actions fraudulent. Matt sank onto the sofa, running a hand through his hair. I watched him, my heart hammering, waiting to see if he'd crumble or fight. That he exhaled shakily. I didn't mean to hurt you, he said, voice raw. Rebecca, she's more than a coworker. I thought I was protecting us. I panicked when you started talking about divorce. I blinked back anger and confusion. Protecting us? By stealing our savings? I asked. He lowered his gaze. I was going to set up a new life, in case we couldn't fix things, he admitted. I'm sorry. The apology hung in the air, heavy and insufficient. Our daughter's school bus rolled by outside, and I realized how fragile my family had become. I turned to Matt. I'm not asking for your apologies anymore, I said. I'm asking for my life back. He looked up, tears in his eyes. Please, let me make this right, he whispered. I thought of the nights I'd stayed awake, wondering if the man I married even existed. Now, I could choose to give him one last chance or walk away with my head held high. I glanced at the pile of papers and then at him. I will drop the injunction if you reverse every change by tomorrow, I said. You'll transfer the money back, remove Rebecca from the trust, and agree to mediation. If you don't, these papers go straight to the judge. His shoulders slumped, relief and defeat warring on his face. Okay, he said softly. I'll do it. I sank onto the sofa across from him. The afternoon light softened, turning the room's edges gentle. We sat in silence, the only sound the quiet hum of the air conditioner. I felt the tension in my shoulders ease slightly. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could change that. Evening, after dinner, I tucked our daughter into bed and kissed her forehead. She looked up at me with big brown eyes and whispered, "Is everything okay, Mom?" I paused, smoothing her hair. "I'm working on making things okay," I said, and she nodded, trusting me. When the door clicked behind me, I let my guard down for a moment and allowed tears to slip free, tears of fear, relief, and cautious hope. I sat at my desk and stared at the evening sky through the window. The horizon glowed pink and gold, as if promising a new beginning. I opened my journal and wrote, "Today, I chose myself. I reclaimed my future." I paused, closing the book. In the distance, the city lights winked on, one by one, each a testament to lives being rebuilt, second chances, and unexpected resilience. Tomorrow, I'd follow through on my promise. I'd watch Matt tidy the finances and sign the reversal paperwork. I'd sit across from him in a mediation room, listening and speaking for our marriage, or for its final goodbye. Either way, the next step was mine to take. I felt a stirring of empowerment, an ember of strength glowing in my chest. I rose, closing the journal and switching off the lamp. As I climbed into bed, I whispered into the dark, "I'm ready for whatever comes next." And for the first time in a long time, I truly meant it.